Hey y'all, it's Anime Cameron. Today I'm going to be reviewing episode 13 of Utau, and I gotta say, this episode, I liked elements in it, and overall I thought it was decent, but certain things keep it from greatness. Let me explain why. Now, you would think at this point, Takia and Eriko, considering that Mitsuko is under the Nirab by Roshoji, or the internal dimension criminal that's taken over Shoji's body as revealed in this episode, you would think they would at the very least tie up Mitsugi so that the moment she wakes up, they could have Takia explain you're under the possession of so-and-so, and that's why you're tied up. They could have done that, but instead, they have plot-induced stupidity towards Takia to the point where he gets knocked out, and they almost do get to the reflector device by him. And now that I think about it, I didn't mention this in the live reaction, but I did a double take, and you know what? Why the fuck did Roshoji and Mitsugi not search Takia's body now that I think about it? He was knocked the fuck out. Roshoji's desperately looking for the reflector device. So not only do they induce plot-related stupidity towards Takia, they induce plot-induced stupidity towards Roshoji by not having the man search Takia's body when the boy was knocked the fuck out. You know what? I think I might have to take back me calling this episode decent. I think this episode was fucking bad now. I actually didn't realize it during the live reaction, but because after I finished the live reaction, thought about this shit for 10 minutes, and I was like, no. And I saw a few more, and I resaw the episode again, and no, this shit is dumb. Because then afterwards, they give, what do you know? They give Takia just enough time to touch the reflector device so that he can travel back in time. Then, this time, he doesn't get hit by the fire extinguisher that Mitsuki has. Eriko knocks Mitsuki out, which, to note, that scene is so terribly animated, I am just thinking, golly. Wow. So, there is that. And then, to top it off, this episode does go through some interesting shit, though. I mean, for one, we do get to find out Eriko's from the future, but from her perspective in the past, she pretty much was in love with this name called Abel. He tried to use this device to go to the first root decision, I believe, and then he runs into an internal dimension criminal that takes over his body. Then it takes over his body. Then you have Roshoji, which isn't actually Roshoji, it's someone taken by an internal dimension criminal, pretty much uses the device to go back in time. And then afterwards, Eriko becomes like a dimensional investigator to try to capture the internal dimensional criminal that took over Abel, and then afterwards, Roshoji's body. All those scenes were actually pretty nice, and it was given through natural dialogue. And I did like the plot progression we did make, because you do have Mitsugi give the spear towards Takia. But here's the kicker. All those sequences were nice and interesting, but there were certain moments that suspended my suspension of disbelief. Because while all the Mitsugi death scene was really good, and I did like the emotion I felt when she says that she's always been thinking about Takia, and I found that to be really sweet and endearing, especially the sequence where she takes the bullet for Takia. It was just all animated bad to the point where instead of feeling sad, I was like, nah, this is kind of looking a bit comical. And this should be sadder because as a character, Mitsugi is a better character than Ayumi, but I felt like Ayumi's deaths in like when it was focusing on her, those were better done from an animation standpoint and better executed. Here, yes, Mitsugi is a better character, but I didn't feel as sad as I might have if because of the visuals. And then you had motherfucking Shoujo doing Naruto running. It's like the show sets itself up well for emotional moments, but the animators fumble the ball, because instead of me feeling, man, I really feel bad for Mitsugi, some inner part of me is laughing at the fact that Shoujo was doing fucking Naruto running. I'm like, oh god. What are these animators? No, what is the directing staff doing? Because the script itself, I mean, aside from a few touch-ups that they can do here and there, it's really solid. It's just the execution of everything is so fucking bad. At least for this specific episode, which is a damn shame. So, from a plot standpoint, yes, we made a plot progression. You got Taka get another spear for his reflector device, and additionally, him having his memory erased on Ryoshoji and on Eriko, but Eriko using her device so that Ryoshoji doesn't chase after Takia so early into another dimension was all interesting. I found those things to be really good. But it's just the execution that was lacking. And then another thing that was lacking, I really would have liked to see more of Abel, so that when we do see the sequence where he's taken over by the internal dimensional criminal, it would have felt pretty sad. But since that didn't happen, I felt they rushed through that shit. Would have liked to see at least an episode about seeing like the future, but instead it just feels rushed. And then I'm just here being like, I mean, okay, cool, I guess. And a shame too, because they built up to it last week, and I thought we were gonna get a sad and engaging story, but no, we just get rushing, boom, boom, boom. But I do like how at least it seems like Kana's gonna be involved more, so that was nice. But the thing that does worry me when we going into the next arc is Eriko possibly becoming a decoration character, because in this arc, Miyu and Yuki, I'm not going to put it lightly, they were decoration characters. The only ones in this whole series that are not decoration characters are literally just Ryoshoji, Takia, Mitsugi, and that's about it. I could literally name the characters that are on decorations on one hand. That's really it. And yeah. So far, I'm starting to get worried about this show a little bit. But this episode did have good though. It wasn't completely bad. The Abel stuff and finding out that Rika was from the future was good. And Mitsugi taking the bullet for Takia, even though it was badly animated, I still felt some emotion. And that's why I'm still going to rate this episode a 4.5 out of 10. No, you know what? Fuck it. I'll give it a 4.9 out of 10. Just a smidge below average, because the animators dropped the ball and they made Takia and Ryoshoji act like fucking idiots in the first half. Had the writers just done some of the slight changes I recommended, which is just having Mitsugi tied up, and then afterwards they can execute it where Ryoshoji can show up afterwards, knock out Eriko, and then force Takia in a situation where he can press the reflector device and then travel back in time. That would have probably avoided the whole Takia and Ryoshoji acting like idiots moment. And it would have made the episode immensely better. Probably would have made this episode a 7 out of 10. And then if the animation would have been good, this episode would have been maybe an 8 or 9 out of 10. And had the Abel stuff not been sped up, who knows? This episode could have very well been 10 out of 10. So that's really what pisses me off about this episode. There was material here for it to be a 10 out of 10 episode, but it shot itself in the kneecaps to the point where it's like a 4.9 out of 10 episode, at least for my book. But anyways, y'all, these are just my thoughts on, episode 13. Comment on your thoughts on the episode in the comment section below. Be sure to rate the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later if you subscribe for more. Alright, bye-bye, everyone.